All right, so let's talk about the fifth of the five parts of the resonation chamber, which are the head, neck, and face muscles. In the Estill model that I spoke of earlier, she refers to this as head and neck anchoring. So much like what she calls torso anchoring, this is head and neck anchoring, or the activation. I like the word activation, but anchoring sounds great too. So it's the activation of these muscles up here. For one thing we spoke about earlier is to pull tension away from the intonator, so it can move as freely as possible. But also because when this is all active, not only is the outer muscles active, but it tends to draw with it the jaw and the soft palate, as well as firming up the surfaces inside our head, in and around the nasal passages, in and around the mouth, so that these surfaces become harder and more reflective, and in a way so that they enhance this original sound, this tone we're sending up here, the make sound, into the shape sound, so that the sound is shaped as best as possible. When these reflective surfaces are hard and firm, they reflect better, as well as the whole process adds harmonics. It's going to adjust the volume somewhat, but what it's really doing is it's beautifying or complexifying the sound, hopefully, if we're doing it right. And it's infusing it with a lot of these emotional qualities that can be added within the resonation chamber above and beyond whatever qualities we create when the sound is made down here. So this section should be pretty quick. This video should be pretty quick because we've inadvertently kind of covered some aspects of it in the past few videos. So we're going to get into two exercises, I think three exercises maybe, just to demonstrate this muscle activation. And then that will wrap up basically the five parts of the resonation chamber. Okay, so the first exercise, we're just going to repeat an exercise from a prior video, which is this sucking motion, is let out most of your air, or nearly most of your air, and then start an inhale, but don't let any air come in through your nose or mouth. You want to keep your lips closed, almost like a fish. You can even let your cheeks kind of move in, like you're puckering. There's kind of a sweet spot that you can find that where you'll feel before we were doing this for the soft palate, right? To raise the soft palate. Now let's just do the same exercise, but we're moving our attention, our awareness, into the muscles of the face and the ears and head, kind of up in this area. So I'm going to do it here. Do it with me. And again, pause the video. Do this in your spare time. Okay? You see how my ears are raising? Like when I get this, once I find the right kind of sweet spot, then I can really draw in extra pressure. I can pull a little harder. And when I find that spot and I pull a little harder, I feel the forehead muscles and I feel the ear muscles go up and back. Of course, the soft palate moves up and even the jaw here moves into place. So this sucking exercise is wonderful in terms of what? We're developing an awareness of what it feels like to have all these things active and in place where they need to be from the very point we start a phrase and then carry it through the full phase. And we never let it relax fully on the inhale, because then we have a whole lot of recovery to do. It's going to relax partially and very briefly and then reactivate prior to the beginning of the next phrase. Okay? So the sucking exercise, I don't hardly do it at all anymore because my muscles are already getting very well trained to behave properly. Obviously, we don't suck when we're singing, at least not in that way. But what we're trying to do, again, it's a silent exercise. It may even help strengthen a little bit of those muscles, but we just want that awareness. We really want to know what it feels like. And notice also, as you do that exercise, so now it's activating everything up here in the resonator, but also notice that it activates the diamond, the muscles of the floor of what would be the floor of the pelvis, the pelvic floor, as well as some of the muscles around the backside as well. So you're really beginning to feel now, as we're going to see in the last section of this course, we're going to put all three parts of the instrument together. And this sucking exercise is just one little way to feel how things are when both the resonator and the aerator are fully active. Okay, so let's move on to another exercise, which is, it begins with what people are usually taught in singing, what I like to call the training wheels of the head and face and neck activation portion of this, and that is the smile. Okay, so this is usually the two things related to the resonator that you hear in the traditional language of vocal development are smile into the sound, or smile. This is the same with voice acting. Like with voice acting, you often hear one of the tips is to put a mirror to the side or behind your microphone and watch your face as you're speaking. Same for podcasting. It's a great tip for podcasters, is watch your face while you're speaking and make sure you're smiling. And why do we do that? And you hear that. So that's one of the tips in singing. The other one is place the sound in the mask. You'll hear that, place the sound in the mask. So those are these kind of older traditional things that are still valuable, but can also be replaced by this newer and more detailed understanding of what's happening. So let's get back to the smile. When we smile, immediately you'll feel the face beginning to activate these muscles back here. And so they serve as kind of a training wheels to activating the head and neck muscles as well as the jaw. And because those are all activating, the soft palate's going to firm up a little bit too. The reason why I sometimes call it training wheels, or I take a little bit of issue with the smile, and this is the exercise, the smile isn't the exercise, we're about to do an exercise, is that it can lead one to a sense of false security that the smile solves everything. And here's the rub, here's the potential problem, is that when we're voice acting or singing, smiling isn't the only emotion that we're communicating. So what can happen is you might train on the smile all the time, and that's nice. It gets the lips nice and wide, it activates everything. But what happens when you're singing a song that's sad or angry or confused, or acting a character who's angry and confused or sad? Well, you might lose the smile and then lose all of this with it, okay? And we want to learn to activate all of this independent of what emotion we're communicating. So this exercise we're going to do now, and you can do on your own all the time. Again, another silent exercise that strengthens all these muscles without making noise and bothering your family or your neighbors. What I want you to do is cycle through a number of emotions, but try to exaggerate that emotion. And let's just do that first. So, okay, it's happiness and smiling. I'll do it. And my face is going to look silly. It's kind of embarrassing, but, so smiling, and then I'll go anger. And then I'll go sad. Oh, no. Things are awful. Disgust. Okay? So just those four, even take note of these. Those four are good practice. Joy or happiness with the smile, anger, sadness, and disgust. And what you'll realize is that they all have in common, when you're doing them, expressively, is that they all activate these muscles. They all activate these muscles, but in slightly different ways. So when you smile, what you'll feel like is things are moving mostly backwards, pulling back, and a little bit up. When you're angry, things go back a little bit and up, and then they almost come forward in the forehead. With disgust, you'll feel things there's kind of a squeezing, kind of in the nose. And so you get some muscle activation in the face, but everything's moving back and up. Okay? So what you can do is cycle through those emotions because it's great muscle exercise for your face. And as well as seeing if you can just like, without expressing emotion, see if you can just establish independent control of these muscles. Just see if you can, without doing anything else, to see, sometimes it's just curiosity, like, is you'll feel these ears going up and back. So all of this needs to be 100% of the time, or it helps to some degree. It's not, there's not just an on-off switch. It's not active or not. There's degrees of activation. So you always want it somewhat active. So again, a scale of -5 to 5 is that 0 is going to be just kind of nice and firm. You're alert. 0 is alert. Then as you begin to smile or move this stuff up and back, you're moving into the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 range. And if you let it all drop and get loose and soft, you'll move in the negative range. So in this case, negative actually is undesirable. In some cases with some of these things, we establish a numeric scale. It doesn't mean good or bad. But in this case, you really don't want this stuff to get too loose because it's unless you're trying to really dampen the sound and remove harmonics, you don't want to be doing this. Okay. And then to add one more thing. So this is another little tip about facial beauty. So we talked about facial beauty with swallowing correctly and chewing hard things that keep a lot of pressure on this maxilla bone so that it doesn't get soft and grow downward. Well, these muscles up here, when we're not just the course of our lives and we're under a lot of stress and we're not using them that much to express our emotions, they tend to atrophy. And what you end up with is that the corners of the eyes begin to sag and you get bags under the eyes and loose skin around the eyes. Well, this is a result of these muscles becoming atrophied and flaccid. So when I do this all the time. You'll see it's kind of a funny face, but I do this all the time, kind of naturally, just to work out and activate those muscles. Some of it, of course, is for the vocal training, but a lot of it is just to keep them nice and strong so I don't start looking old too soon. And so this is another byproduct of keeping all these muscles good and strong and making them even stronger, is that this skin around the eyes, which is what happens in a facelift, is they actually cut, in one type of facelift, they'll cut the head open here, the skin open, and they'll install wires underneath the skin, bolt them to the skull, and those wires will be tensed, they'll be tightened up to pull these muscles, or the absence of muscle, to pull this skin up and into place. So you'll see, I just took 10 years off my life by doing this. So you'll see, so I'm looking at the little video display next to the camera. As these muscles are strong and strengthened, these areas around the sides of your eyes will stay up and stronger as well. Okay, so I think, that's pretty much the end of this section on the, let's do one more exercise real quick. So something came up. I don't really do this that often, but because I'm mostly concerned with the face and head muscles. In fact, when I work out and do a long workout and I train hard on this, I'll actually get, much like if you work your biceps in the gym or some muscle in the gym and they'll be sore, there's some muscles that connect right here above and behind the ear. And you'll find as you raise the ears or smile, you'll kind of feel this muscle activity. Sometimes the next day, these are really sore in a good way, like they've been worked out. But these can get sore if I'm focused really hard in my training on keeping all this stuff up and active. Okay, so let's wrap that up on I had that one exercise. So the neck muscles, which are on the side and the back, they tend to kind of be active. If I'm doing all this right, they're active already. But one quick little thing you can do to keep them active is either with one hand, like your fist on your forehead. I actually like to do it with two, like I have horns on my forehead, is push your head, lock these up good so your biceps are active, and push your head against them. And what you'll find, you don't want your head to come forward, so get your head back in its right position, proper position, like you have that rope pulling it up. And apply mutual pressure here. And what that does is it activates the side and back of the neck muscles. It anchors them in the Estill language. It anchors them. And one of the reasons I like to do two of them, while sometimes when I'm singing a song into a microphone or when I'm doing my vocal training, I do this just to kind of check in, to get them activated and check in and see if I can feel a little difference in the sound I'm making. Okay, one of the reasons I do two hands is because that accomplishes another thing. If you remember, it actually helps to activate the back muscles, the trapezius muscles that we want slightly active so that the chest muscles don't lock up or engage. And it helps with the posture and the support for the instrument as a whole. Okay, so this is another little exercise you can do, is just push against your head, but don't bring it forward. Keep the head back in its position and use the hand in the head with applying pressure together, and just feel around with it, experiment with it. Okay, so we've just now covered each of the 5 individual parts of the resonator, and now we'll quick do a video to kind of wrap up and talk about how we can bring that all together.